We are back on the UXI podcast, and we've got a bit of an international flavor in this episode. We've been talking wine for the last 15 minutes because we've got two Frenchmen on the couch. Florian's been with us before as a player earlier in the year, but we'd like to welcome Luca Boyk, who's from France. He is spending 2 months on the UXI program as a coach, picking up some of the South African tips and taking it back to France to see if they can improve their rugby a little bit, at least to try and compete with the Springboks. But Anton is going to help me with the discussion here because he can also speak French, and Florian's also going to be here to assist. Luca, welcome, and tell us a little bit, why did you choose South Africa as your destination of rugby culture to come and learn?
Yes, it's a good question. I met Anton last year in Compiègne, my club in France, and I want to discover rugby, South African rugby, because you are world champions. Yeah. So
just say that again. South Africa, we are what? World champions. Okay.
Yeah, world champions in France. Yeah. So it's traumatism for me because quart de finale in France it was a very
battle.
Yeah, good intensity. So congratulations for the World Cup. So I want to discover the rugby South African. I think it's very different culture. I want to learn English because I don't speak English very well. It's a good example. So Fleur, thanks for your translate. And I think immersive situation, it's very good for learn. Yeah. So with Anton, I tell him for an experience for discover and learn English. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said you guys met in France last year. You've also traveled the world quite a bit to pick up some rugby from other cultures.
I played over in France when I was 20 years old, and I spent a year over there then, and then I had the opportunity to go back and coach over there. I was over there for 3 years, down in Bourgogne-Jallieu. But last year we did a camp in Compiègne and met Luca there. He was the coach, and he's moving on now. He's moving up into I think to Federal 2. I think he's going to be coaching, or Federal 1 with PUC, Paris University Club. He's taking on a role there. So he was very. When I was over there, he really engaged a lot with me and wanted to really open himself up to how we do things in South Africa and get a different coaching experience. So he reached out to me, and we've managed to integrate him into our program at UXI, not only from an institute perspective, but also at the club where we play. So he works with the students and the players, and then he's also working with the Villagers First team with their coaches. And I think getting a fantastic experience that'll get him nice and ready for when he goes back to pre-season in France at his club, which normally starts in August.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a time for coming here because the end of the season in France is April when you don't qualify.
You don't qualify.
Yeah,
don't qualify.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's very long period, April, August, and it's an occasion for me to come here. Yeah.
So we'll pick up on some of the lessons and reasons from why you decided to come to South Africa. I think the first thing that I'm curious to know is. And from a coach and maybe a player's point of view, you being 5 months in the program, is what the big difference is between rugby training in France and training in South Africa?
Donc la première question qu'il veut te poser, c'est savoir quelle est la grande différence entre l'entraînement en France et l'entraînement en Afrique du Sud.
La plus grande différence pour moi, elle est sur l'aspect physique de l'entraînement. Si en France, évidemment qu'on travaille l'aspect physique, mais je trouve qu'ici, de ce que j'ai vu, c'est vraiment au cœur même de la performance et il y a un gros travail effectué sur cette dimension-là.
So he just feels that the major difference between the French and South African is the focus on the physical element. Without a doubt, that's something that has hit home from the minute he arrived here.
And as a player, how have you experienced it?
Yeah, it's for the first few months, it was really hard for me. I would go back home with cramps and being tired a lot. But you get used to it. You really get used to it. And I think my fitness and even in the gym, I've improved a lot.
So do you feel if players really train at that high level under strain for so long, is that what gives South African teams the edge, maybe at test match level, when they do play against sides like France and other teams from Europe?
Est-ce que c'est ce genre d'entraînement à haute intensité qui, selon toi, donne à l'Afrique du Sud cet avantage sur les test matchs contre d'autres équipes internationales?
C'est possible que ça puisse jouer. Ce serait prétentieux de dire que j'ai tout compris aux performances du niveau international au bout d'un mois ici à l'académie, mais en effet, culturellement, il y a cette notion physique, elle transparaît beaucoup plus qu'en France. Et ça, je m'y attendais avant de venir, mais le voir, c'est encore différent.
Yeah, I just said that before he arrived here, I'd heard about it, but being here and seeing it for real it's something totally different. You know, if I can just come in on that as well, you know, where the international results and if you look at URC results or top 14 results, I think their sides are training physically as well because they're dominating in those areas. But where Lucas says culturally our players tend to accept and work harder and push themselves further before they would rather moan and integrate. Our culture is just to keep quiet and work rather than to complain.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Because the impression you get, especially when you watch European Cups, is that French sides, and especially the top 14, there's no easy game because it's very physical. And I think that's why when young players go over there, that's why it's such a shock to their system, is that, you know, it's also tough to play rugby in France because the players are big, they're strong, they're mean, they're cruel. So it's interesting that's the first impression.
Il disait que pour lui, pour les joueurs qui vont en France, c'est surprenant de voir dans les équipes professionnelles qu'il y ait quand même cet aspect physique. Parce que quand tu regardes les résultats de top 14, c'est souvent des matchs avec beaucoup d'intensité. Et du coup, pour certains joueurs qui vont en France, ils ne s'attendent pas forcément à retrouver les entraînements à haute intensité comme il peut y avoir ici.
Ouais, alors moi, ma connaissance du milieu professionnel en France est limitée parce que j'entraîne sur le niveau fédéral. Donc j'ai des joueurs qui sont plus réactifs, c'est-à-dire qui travaillent la journée et qui viennent au rugby le soir. Donc voilà, mais c'est sûr que ici les exigences physiques ressemblent un petit peu à ce que j'ai pu voir sur des équipes espoirs dans des clubs professionnels, en effet. Ouais.
Yeah, so what he's saying is that, you know, his experience is limited at that top 14 professional level, where he's working at federal level, where you have some professional but also some amateur players. So they're training at night, so the load that he's witnessed is probably the equivalent of what your academies or your centre de formations at the top 14 clubs that those youngsters are exposed to. But those players are already professional. When we're talking about what we have at the Institute, we're talking about guys that are all amateur. These guys are being exposed to that so that when they enter a professional setup, they can actually adapt. As Flo said earlier on, when he arrived here, the first 3 months, it was off the training field into bed. Now your body adapts to it and it just becomes the norm because you become too used to that professional life. So from Luca's side, yes, the top level of France is potentially training like that, but the latter half, so that entrance into that is where the focus on conditioning and physicality is definitely not the same.
Yeah, avec, si je peux compléter, quand même une différence, c'est que sur le milieu professionnel et aussi sur le niveau fédéral, la préparation physique est très contrôlée avec des données, les joueurs portent des GPS, mesurent le nombre de courses à effectuer par rapport à l'intensité du match, etc., etc. Ce que j'ai vu lundi de la séance d'entraînement, il y a très peu de contrôle. C'est l'entraîneur amène ses joueurs au bout du bout jusqu'à ce qu'ils puissent plus courir. à la moitié, il y a des joueurs qui crampent, qui vomissent. C'est pas grave, ça continue. Et ça, c'est vraiment culturellement complètement différent de ce que je peux voir en France.
Yeah, so so the session that Luca watched on Monday was a session that was extremely tough, and what we drive at UXI is we drive hard values and hard discipline. When you're dealing with a senior group of players, you're going to be watching their load. They're going to be doing RPEs. They might have GPS that's going to be watching them. But over here, if players are not on time, if they're not disciplined, if they don't pitch for a session, there's a repercussion. We're preparing them for professional lives to fit into a Pro D or a top 14 club if they happen to get that opportunity. Okay, and there you have to act like a professional. So there are repercussions here at UXI if you don't. So the kind of session that they had on Monday, which was led by our head of S&C, Jack Martinez, okay, was he pushed them over and beyond without worrying about what the GPS or load was, okay. Purely because we need the players to fall back, toe the line, and to understand that if you want to be treated like a professional, then you need to act like one. And occasionally, on a year's program, as you can imagine, in heavy winter, in the rain, players tend to get a little bit lazy, and it's just that's the matter of revisiting the values and culture, the high performance culture that we developed at UXI through our rope systems that we have, our rite of passage systems.
And you'd see players suffer and just push through that without complaining or walking away halfway through the session.
Il dit, du coup, est-ce qu'en France tu verrais des joueurs se plaindre ou ne pas finir ce genre de séance?
That's specifically the session you watched here.
It's my experience, yes.
Yeah.
It's my experience, yeah.
And would you now, as a coach that's learning from what you experience here, do you think it's possible for you to package what you've seen here into maybe a set of lessons that you can take back and implement in the culture of your team and get buy-in?
Est-ce que toi, en tant que coach, tu pourrais dire que de ce que tu as vu pour l'instant, tu peux retirer des leçons qui seront utiles et que tu peux implémenter dans la culture d'une équipe en France?
Ouais, alors je ne vais pas reparler de l'aspect physique parce qu'évidemment que ça m'inspire, mais j'en ai déjà un petit peu parlé. Il y a autre chose qui me marque, c'est la mentalité des joueurs avant de rentrer sur le terrain, la croyance qu'il y a autour du match, que ce soit sur les prières après, que ce soit sur les chants avant. J'ai eu la chance d'aller à Bolland ce week-end pour un match dans un petit village où l'ambiance est complètement différente. Les joueurs chantent avant de rentrer sur le terrain, alors qu'en France, un avant-match dans un vestiaire, c'est quelque chose de très fermé, avec le coach qui parle, les joueurs qui écoutent, et tout le monde est mentalement concentré sur son match, et chanter est presque signe d'irrespect, alors qu'ici, j'ai l'impression que la culture est différente vis-à-vis de l'approche des matchs.
Yeah, the belief, the way players manage themselves before a game, that culturally is really, really different to the way they do things in France. In France, it's really focused. In the changing room, you're going to have players, the coach is going to come in and talk really, really serious. You went to watch a game out in the Boerland. You went to watch Sirius against, Sirius played a game in Paul, I think it was against Evergreens on the weekend. And you went to watch that with Warren Peterson, our head coach. And you know, teams are singing and building up a vibe in the team. It's something that you don't see in France. So culturally, that is massively different. And for him, that was a big eye opener.
I've always found it interesting how certain coaches work for certain cultures. Where you've got a coach like Michael Checo, who's quite stern, he's up front, he'll call a spade, half-time in the change rooms. And it might not work with a liberal sort of pipped up group of young players, whereas in a place like France or Argentina, where guys are used to being focused and being serious with each other, his coaching style goes down quite well. Would you consider yourself to be one of those serious, more, upfront French coaches?
Il dit qu'il trouve ça fascinant comment tu as des coachs qui fonctionnent avec seulement une culture, comme le coach de l'Argentine qui est très, très direct dans son discours. Est-ce que toi tu te considères comme un coach qui est très direct dans son discours, qui...
Non, j'ai eu la chance de vivre une expérience auparavant au Sénégal, dans un club aussi du Sénégal pendant 6 mois. Et donc je suis déjà un petit peu amené à réfléchir sur ces questions-là, de laisser avoir un discours qui puisse toucher l'ensemble des joueurs. Donc trouver des moyens avant un match, que tous les joueurs puissent être mobilisés. Et si je fonctionne que par l'émotion, je vais toucher une partie de mon vestiaire. Si je fonctionne en mettant de la musique, je vais toucher une autre partie. Et du coup, ça m'amène vraiment à réfléchir sur, et là aussi, quand je vois ce qui se passe en Afrique du Sud, sur comment moi, en tant que coach, je peux réussir à toucher l'ensemble de mes joueurs avec différents moyens, par peut-être différents moments, afin que la concentration et l'envie de rentrer sur le terrain soit optimale.
Yeah, that's what he really enjoys about coaching. He's had an opportunity to spend 6 months at a different club as well, where he's gone in and found ways to interact with different parts of the team. Some guys like you to be serious, some guys like a bit of music, some guys like total quiet. So he's as a coach in his journey, it's about trying to find a way here in South Africa how to connect with the South African players when he's involved with them, and how he can get them to perform. So I think his whole coaching exchange is to broaden his way he gets the best out of his team, what works the best, and if he can pick up different coaching. I wouldn't call them philosophies, but coaching ways in how certain coaches deal with different aspects. Those are probably the big takeaways that he's going to take going home.
And did you, before you came, did you come with sort of 3 to 5 set lessons or outcomes that you wanted to go back home with? Or did you say, listen, I'm coming here with an open book, I'm not going to come with any preconceived ideas of what I want to pick up? Or was there a bit of balance between the two? So did you come with a structure of things you wanted to know, or did you come completely open to learn?
Est-ce que tu es venu ici avec des idées de ce que tu voudrais ramener en France, Ou est-ce que tu es venu en te disant je vais voir ce qui arrive et j'en tirerai ce que je peux?
C'est vraiment la deuxième option. J'essaye vraiment d'avoir un état d'esprit qui est hyper ouvert et de balayer un petit peu mes idées reçues. C'est un travail, en France on dit en sociologie, il faut changer ses lunettes pour voir les choses comme elles sont réellement et non pas comme on les a imaginées nous avant. Donc c'est vraiment l'état d'esprit que j'essaye d'avoir. C'est évidemment pas facile, mais chaque jour j'essaye d'être concentré là-dessus pour repartir avec un maximum d'éléments. Parfois des éléments qui iront à l'encontre de ce que je pensais au départ, et tant mieux. Parfois des éléments qui vont conforter. Mais voilà, c'est plutôt celle-là ma démarche.
You know, he's just said he's really come here with a really open-minded philosophy. He wants to look at things through a different set of glasses. You know, if you translate that directly from French, where he looks at things in a different way, and maybe not the way he's used to looking at it. And in that way, he can, he has the ability then to sit down and to reflect on what has worked, what isn't working, and then how he can combine that. Maybe, and I'll use a little bit of that. Let's call it that Franco type of mentality. And combining it with a little bit of what we would call because South Africa's got a big, we've got a massive Afrikaans culture, but at the end of the day, our rugby stems from England, so we've got that Anglo-Saxon type of a rugby approach where they've got that laissez-faire kind of French, Mediterranean, Argentinian, French kind of mentality. So it's maybe just trying to blend the two, and see what he can take home and blend into his coaching philosophies going forward.
I would assume that that's probably the main reason and lesson you would give to coaches on why, if they get the opportunity to go and coach in other countries and learn, from other rugby cultures.
Yeah,
we spoke about it before.
Yeah, I think that for me, and I applaud Luca for doing what he's doing. I've over my career, I've spent a lot of time with a variety of different Premiership clubs in France, clubs over in New Zealand, Argentina, and just try to go there, be part of an environment, but sit down, watch and learn, see how they do things. A lot of time the drills are similar. There's rugby can only be done in a certain amount of ways, but Florian's got a way of doing something slightly differently to me, or Luca's got a way of communicating slightly different to the way I might have. So you steal with your eyes, you listen with your ears, and then you come back and you shape the type of coach, and you shape your identity. And I think that if you are just gonna stay in your box, and if that box just happens to be South Africa, or if it happens to be France, I think that you're always going to be focused in the way that you do things, or the way things have been done. And I think that you need to expose yourself to different ideas, different philosophies, different international experiences. Because in that way, I think your rugby has got a much brighter or better future in terms of the way you interact with players. Because the rugby is becoming an international game. You've got in France, I think every single club has got international players that are playing there, from top 14 down to Federal 3. There are international players that are there. It's not just French players. So how to interact as a coach with foreigners is something that you'll pick up if you are experiencing that as well. So to be a young coach, get over here, Luca's involved in a Saturday coaching the team. He's involved with the trainings on the field. He's involved in all our coaches sessions, doing IPDs with players, bettering his language, hearing our coaches talk just about how they view rugby, and then involved at club level as well on a Saturday in the Western Province Super League. You know, and I think that experience is just when he goes back to France, he'll definitely be looking and approaching things slightly differently to the way he would have been doing them before.
Yeah, and I was also fortunate enough to play schools rugby in Scotland for a couple of months and do coaching education in New Zealand. There's definitely a different flavour that each culture brings, and I think it's also perhaps part of the reason why Rassie has such a diverse coaching staff. You know, he's got a New Zealander, he's got an Englishman, he's got an Irishman, or he had an Englishman, he's got 2 Irishmen. It's just they bring different views on the game, different approaches, and that's probably the best lesson for anyone to come and pick up, is to say how do different cultures do rugby differently and coaching approaches. And I mean, if you gentlemen had sort of final words that you'd like to share, you know, to any, I want to say people back in France, but any coaches that might be watching this from abroad, you know, what would you tell them? What's the main reason for them to come to SA and experience our culture as a coach and as a player?
Si tu avais une raison pour motiver des gens à venir, qu'est-ce que ça serait?
Une seule, il y en a plusieurs, mais une seule, c'est sortir de sa zone de confort. Je crois que dans le métier d'entraîneur, ou le métier ou pas, ou la passion d'entraîner, on progresse que si on sort de nos croyances originelles. Et sortir de sa zone de confort, c'est partir à l'aventure, c'est aller dans des endroits où on ne maîtrise pas, par exemple pour moi, même le langage, parce que la force de ce qu'on peut ressortir de ça va forcément nous faire progresser dans notre pratique.
Yeah, you know, he's just saying there, he's got a lot of reasons, but if he has to choose one, you know, it's just get out of your comfort zone. You know, expose yourself to different ways that things are done. That's the only way that you're going to improve, and it's the only way that you're going to push yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, is that flow from your side as a player?
I'd say the same. It's discovering a new culture. And at UXI, you have the chance to be in a professional environment, which for a lot of players back in France, you will never see how it works if you don't come here, because you don't have those opportunities back in France. So, yeah.
Well, you also are sitting, doing an English podcast, you know, thrown in the deep end and, you know, learning how to fight.
No, you know, and doing it bloody well, you know. I think that you know, if I can give any, having coached in France, having worked with CDFs, your Centre de Formations, the elite players in your top 14 and Pro D2, the guys that are going to those academies, they are identified straight out of lycée or college. Okay, it's the youngsters that aren't. And the kind of journey that Flo has taken, Flo's spending 12 months with us. You know, Luca's here as a coach, spending 2 months to grow his. We have so many late developers in South Africa. Okay, you definitely have the same in France. You know, and I do believe that the youngsters can follow your lead. Coaches can follow your lead. You know, come over here, spend a month, engage, or come and improve. And then, you know, when you return, whether you going back to Federal 1 or on to play in the national leagues or who knows, you know, even higher than that. You have to start somewhere, and I do think that the lessons that the guys come over and learn, whether it was me going to England and coming back to Africa, or going to New Zealand to go and play. I think you're going to get those similar. So get out of your comfort zones. You know, come and experience something that makes you think and look at things differently, and you know, come push yourselves. That would be my message to the youngsters in France. Viens en Afrique du Sud. Le programme à UXI c'est vraiment magnifique. Le jeu ici, il a amélioré beaucoup, et je suis sûr si tu engages avec nous, votre expérience est incroyable, et c'est pas juste une année de rugby, mais c'est une année de vie, ou un mois de vie. Et Flo et Lucas, c'est un très bon exemple de ça. Et c'est pas le premier d'eux. On a déjà chaque année on a le joueur qui vient. Et je suis sûr. Si tu décides ou si tu as le question, si sauf nous, ou si tu veux parler avec le Français qui a fait l'expérience, on peut te dire en contact avec eux. Mais allez, Afrique du Sud, c'est 3 fois le champion du monde. On a le très bon système ici. Et viens apprendre comment tu dois gagner et comment tu peux améliorer ton jeu.
Je ne peux qu'appuyer ce que dit Anton. J'ai rarement vu un encadrement aussi professionnel avec autant de personnes qui entourent les joueurs. Il y a un staff, je ne peux même pas les compter. Il y a beaucoup de personnes avec des missions différentes. Alors certes, il y a beaucoup de joueurs dans l'académie, mais que ce soit sur la préparation physique, la réhab, le médical, la vidéo, l'analyse, et puis le sportif, c'est monstrueux. Je pense qu'il y a une quinzaine de personnes qui encadrent les joueurs. C'est en effet, comme disait Fleu, c'est un encadrement réellement professionnel. Donc évoluer là-dedans, qu'on soit joueur ou entraîneur, ça fait grandir.
Good. I'm not going to translate that totally, because I think the French guys will understand it, but he's really complimentary of the systems that we have and the professionalism that UXI on a whole, that the institutes have and that the players benefit from.
Yeah, I was just about to say my French is worse than my golf swing, so I'll just ask that we end off by anyone that's interested, you know, in finding out how to join UXI from abroad. Anton, if you can just tell them how can they get in touch and apply to join you?
The best to do is just to email me directly. We'll put our email address on the bottom of the video, and you're welcome to reach out, and I'll get in contact with you and send you through the details. And yes, you know, the other ways of doing it are to always chat to those guys who've done the course with us before. So guys like Luca and Florian are in France, and they'll always be ambassadors for our course. You know, so you can always reach out to them, and I'm sure they'll put you in contact with me.
Cool. Luca, Flo, thank you. Merci.
Thank you.
I hope I said that right, but thanks very much for joining us. And there you've got, if you want to join us, just email Anton. Contact details are below in the description. We'll see you next time. Thanks very much.
Au revoir, tout le monde. Ciao les gars.